Hi. In Melbourne, in Australia at the moment, we're in stage 4 lockdown for the coronavirus. That means that we have to have masks all the time. You have to carry one when you're running. We're limited to one exercise session per day and a limit of 60 minutes per session. That really affects the long run. So, been a bit of a downer, but you've got to work around things. Luckily, I'm not chasing mileage anymore because not enough time to actually train to get the mileage in. Motivation's been a bit of an issue. I think everyone's motivation in general for everything's a bit down during this lockdown. The running every day, that's actually helped me get out. That's given me the motivation, even when I don't feel like it, to still get out there and keep that running streak going. The day before the lockdown started, Elaine and I decided to do a kayak from our place up to Frankston. It's about 6 kilometres. Last chance we have, because as soon as the lockdown starts, you're not allowed to actually get on the piers. So I've got some new ideas on how my training's going to go now. While I go through those ideas, I'll put up some video footage of Elaine and me kayaking down the creek. We're not very good kayakers and not that great a vision, but probably more interesting than looking at me walking through the bush. At Frankston at the moment, we're going to paddle up to this point here, which is where the creek enters the bay. So I've dropped off the car and now I've just got to ride the mountain bike back home, get in the boat, and then we'll paddle up here. Hopefully, that's the plan anyway. Riding home along one of my favourite running trails, so I thought it'd be nice just to have a look at where I run. Some of it's boardwalk like this, but most of the path up the Frankston end is more of a groomed trail. As we come over this bridge, you'll get to see the jetty that Elaine made it to last time. We're hoping to, with the both of us this time, we're hoping to get about 1 kilometre further up the creek. Now we're on the sandy coastal trail. The bay is just to the left. Unfortunately, you can't see it from the trail. I prefer this rougher surface. It engages more of the lateral stabilizing fibers in your muscles. It's softer on your legs and tends to be a bit more windy and undulating and generally a bit more interesting. For our first kayak we chose an inflatable one, easier to store and carry, but of course that means you've still got to pump it up. Once inflated, it looks pretty good. Now for the hard part, launching into the water. The creek's very shallow, but we're also in the middle of winter, so the water's very cold. And we're off. Hopefully you can enjoy the scenery while I outline my new training racing plans. With the second wave of the COVID-19 infections hitting Melbourne, I don't expect any mass gathering events like fun runs or triathlons to be held in Melbourne this year. In fact, I'd be surprised if races don't start again until mid-next year. Some of the other states in Australia are seeing almost 0 infections and life is returning to normal. But as someone from Melbourne, I would need to spend 14 days in quarantine if I wanted to travel interstate. So, my new plan is running time trials. I don't think I could handle doing solo time trials over longer distances, so my plan is to start with 5 kilometres and then if that works out, move on to 10 kilometre time trials. I'm reasonably happy with my PB for 5k, but I've never really tried to get a good time for 10 kilometres. I've always been more focused on being in peak condition for triathlons. With triathlons extremely unlikely in the near future, perfect time to try and chase some of those secondary goals. According to Strava, my best 10k time was during a hilly trail race at Studley Park in Kew, so I don't think it's going to be hard to set a new PB. More the question, can I set a time I'd be happy with? Elaine claims I'm never happy with my results. The plan is 4 time trials. First will be in 3 weeks' time, and then one every 4 weeks after that. I'll be running on an athletics track, so I can be confident in the distance rather than relying on my GPS watch. The athletics track should also help with pacing. I can set a timer to go off from my expected time each lap or even each 100 metres. That way I can tell if I'm ahead or behind without relying on the GPS. The first 2 time trials will be 5k. This should help me work out my current fitness and pace, as well as being easy to recover from, so they won't interrupt my training much. I don't expect to nail the 10k on my first attempt, which is why I've planned 2. After that, I'll have to reassess things. Most likely I'll return to base training and start the run training cycle all over again. On the right is the jetty that Elaine made it to with her solo effort the week before, so we've done better than that. Those of you who might be a bit more observant probably noticed that the kayak has a definite lean. The right side is underinflated, is very obvious in this shot here. So it wasn't that it wasn't pumped up properly to start with, it was just a slow leak. So that meant the paddling got harder and harder as we went along. But it just survived. It was pretty much completely deflated by the time we finished. And finally we can see the finish. With the underinflated kayak, it was a hard effort, but we enjoyed it. And we got back just as the sun was starting to go down. So we think we had about 2 hours spare before the lockdown.
If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Looks like it's just starting to rain. Might be a good time to finish.